The 2025 NBA playoffs are just a little under 5 weeks away from now, and I am super excited. I think this is going to be one of the best postseasons we have had in quite a long time. There's a lot of really interesting teams with very high odds with our top 3 contenders, but there are also some teams below the Thunder, Cavs, and Celtics who have really shown a lot of upside themselves, and there could be potential for a dark horse situation to happen here. So in today's video, I wanted to simulate what the 2025 playoffs might look like if the season were to end today. So let's go ahead and do that. Hello everybody, welcome to Rusty Bucket. Subscribe to the channel and drop a like on this video, and check us out over on Spotify and Apple Podcasts if you would like to enjoy this as an audio-only experience. Before I begin today's episode, I want to shout out our sponsor, Factor. If you're a busy person like me, then you probably don't have the best eating habits. Generally speaking, eating consistently and eating well has been extremely difficult for me in the past. Luckily, today's sponsor Factor makes both a lot easier. Factor is very customizable. You can specify options to your dietary restrictions with over 35 meals to choose per week. There are calorie smart options if you're trying to lose weight, keto options if you're dodging carbs, and protein plus if you're getting back in the gym. I even went vegan this time just to switch it up. Factor is more affordable than takeout and even more convenient with fresh, never frozen meals delivered right to your door. Then it's only 2 minutes in the microwave and your meal is ready. If you have a busy schedule like me, being able to prepare something quickly like you can with Factor helps so much. Factor eliminates the hassle of prepping, cooking, and cleaning up. Simply heat and savor the good stuff. Head to factor75.com or use the link in the description and use code 50ALSO-RUSTY to get 50% off of your first Factor box. Again, that is code 50ALSO-RUSTY to get 50% off of your first box, and a massive thank you to Factor for sponsoring this video. I did this pretty basically. Also, I put together this little graphic like maybe 5 days ago from when I'm recording this, so it'll be a couple of days removed from when you actually see it. So apologies if the actual positioning is outdated, but as of right now, if we go over here, our playoff seeding in the Eastern Conference, we have the Cavaliers versus the Magic, Bucks versus Pacers, Knicks versus Pistons, and Celtics versus Heat as our round 1 matchups. And then our round 1 in the West is the Thunder versus the Clippers, Grizzlies versus Rockets, Nuggets versus Warriors, and Lakers versus Timberwolves. I actually think the Lakers fell down to the 3 seed literally today, so it is going to be a little bit off, but it's all right. We're going to get there. So let's go ahead and start in the Eastern Conference. We'll go series by series here. Let's first talk about Cavs versus Magic. This is the actual first round matchup that we got last year. I found it to be one of the more frustrating Game 7 series that I've ever experienced in my life, just because both of these teams were kind of a disaster on the offensive end. And like, it wasn't quite a rock fight so much as it was a rock throwing it in the air and letting it land on your own head. But the Cleveland Cavaliers are the Cleveland Cavaliers this year, and the Orlando Magic, while they've had some upside this year, they're the 8th seed for a reason. Part of it's injury, part of it is that Paolo has just not quite lived up to expectations, at least in a recent stretch, but in his more recent stretch he's been good. So, you know, the Magic could potentially catch a wave and win a game or 2 in here, but it's just not their year, and it is Cleveland's very much. So we're going to have them win that series pretty easily. All right, next up we have the Bucks versus the Pacers. This is a very interesting one. Tyrese Halliburton just hit an and one game-winning 3 against them the other day that the game was tied, or the game was tied after the 3, and then the free throw won the game. Really cool shot. One of the best game winners I feel like I've ever seen. The Pacers have been rolling lately, and Tyrese Halliburton's been looking a lot better, and the Milwaukee Bucks I just kind of feel about. They had their in-season tournament moment at the start of the year, and then they just kind of faded in the background again. Kyle Kuzma's been a weirdly good addition for them when I was very anti that move, so that's worked out positively for them. But honestly, dude, I don't know. I feel like I want Indiana. I feel like Indiana is a better team. Obviously, the Bucks have the best guy in the series, but I don't even know if they have the best second or third guy. The Pacers are deeper. The Pacers are more, I don't know, cohesive. But at the same time, the Bucks have Giannis, and the Pacers are not really much of a defense. I actually haven't looked at this a little bit. I don't know where I'm going to go right now. I don't even remember what I put here. So let's find out together. Okay, yeah, I was leaning Pacers. I thought I was leaning Pacers. Okay, we're going Pacers. I'm still unsure about that one, though. That series I do feel like could go either way. Then we have Knicks versus Pistons, and that is a depressing one for me because I really like both of these teams and would like to see them go pretty far. I don't know how to feel about this. I feel like the Knicks are going to win because they just are better. I hate to say that. I just think they are better. They're deeper. They're more experienced. They're just a better overall team, not so much dominated by one individual carrying the team. Cade's not substantially better than Jalen Brunson, but Cat is substantially better than their second option, like, I guess, Tobias Harris or Malik Beasley. Detroit weirdly has more depth than them. The Knicks are just like the only team that doesn't have depth that's also good in the NBA right now. I guess the Denver Nuggets are another one, but yeah, dude, I gotta give it to the Knicks. I'm so sorry, Pistons fans. I've really enjoyed the Pistons this year. I hate to do it to you, but yeah, it's gotta be the Knicks. Next up, Celtics versus Heat. I'm not even gonna entertain this one. It is the Celtics. I should mention also, I ran the play-in test off screen. I did that. I just skipped ahead of it because I didn't want to bother with that shit. It's single game elimination. 7th and 8th seed. Who gives a shit? This video is going to be long enough as it is. So, our first round winners are the Cavs, Pacers, Knicks, and Celtics, top 4 teams in the Western Conference. Then we get over to the Thunder versus the Clippers matchup, 1 versus 8. Again, I don't really feel much need to entertain this. We can just go ahead and move on. The Thunder win that one. Moving on now to Grizzlies versus Rockets. I am going to go with the Memphis Grizzlies here, and it's for a very simple reason: half-court offense. While the Houston Rockets have really done a great job of winning on the margins by being a good rebounding team, a good defensive team, a good fast break team, and stuff like that, unfortunately, they're just not an overall good half-court offense. They stagnate quite a bit. Jalen Green is very limited as a shot creator, as is Şengün as a lead playmaker. So it's just not enough to their offense right now for where they're at the moment. It's okay. They're in their first year of being in real playoff contention. They're allowed to not be ready to compete right now, and Memphis just has more experience, and they have an offensive system that has made them one of the best offenses in the league while still being a good defense. So Memphis, more well-rounded, more talented, and a better half-court offense. I'm just going to have to give it to the Grizzlies. Apologies to Houston Rockets fans. Moving on to the Nuggets versus the Warriors. This is a very tough one, and that's a series that I think could go either way, pretty much dependent on Jokic's teammates and how much they show up, dependent on if Jimmy Butler and Stephen Curry are able to turn it up a notch in the postseason. More Jimmy Butler than Steph, because Steph lately has been really good as hell in the regular season, so he doesn't even need to turn it on beyond that. Just bringing what he already brings to the table would be enough. If Jimmy is not really going to elevate himself, that's probably not going to be enough for the Warriors to win, but I do feel like he is going to. I also feel like Jokic's teammates last year kind of let him down. I haven't seen enough from them this year in the regular season to feel much better about that. Jamal Murray has had a better year. Christian Brown's had a much better year. I think he should be most improved player. And Aaron Gordon has shot his 3-ball well. So there's a lot of stuff going positive for Denver, and there's definitely a route towards being a contender here. But I think if there's teams here who are contenders that aren't the Thunder, the Celtics, and the Cavs, the Nuggets and the Warriors are very much in contention for that place. So I think I went Warriors. I think my gut is telling me Warriors. This is the fun thing about making this graphic, but then waiting like 4 days to record the video. We get to learn together who I picked. I would change it if it's actually, I've changed my mind, but right now I'm leaning Warriors, and yes, that is who I picked. Lakers versus Timberwolves is our last round 1 matchup. This is kind of an interesting one because the Timberwolves have a lot that can allow them to be good, but they've also been so weird this year. They've been good lately with Julius Randle, but they were terrible before with him. Jaden McDaniels has been good without Randle, but that's not really going to be happening while Randle is there. So there's just a lot to kind of grasp. Rudy Gobert is such an offensive zero, but Anthony Edwards has elevated his game with his three-point shooting. So I don't know, man. I do think the Timberwolves have a fighter's chance in this series, but people are talking about the Lakers a lot for a reason. They just are overwhelmingly more powerful on the offensive end, and you might be able to hang your hat on being a better defense than the Lakers, but are you going to be enough of a better defense given that the Lakers have been a good defense since the Luka trade? My feeling is just that the Lakers are going to be able to out-offense Minnesota. So I am going to go with the Lakers. So we have the Thunder, Grizzlies, Warriors, and Lakers getting out of the first round in the Western Conference. Determining our Eastern Conference Finals matchup, we have a Cavaliers versus Pacers series that I can say confidently I think the Cavaliers will win. So Cavaliers advance to the Eastern Conference Finals. And then we have a Knicks versus Celtics matchup. And the thing about this is, obviously, I think Boston's going to win. I'm not going to sit here and act like that's not what I think's going to happen, but I will humor the Knicks here because I do think they match up well, and if the shooting variance went to their side of things, it could make a significant difference. Now, the huge thing is the Knicks have not been nearly as good of a regular season defense as you would have hoped they would be. Both OG to an extent, but especially Mikal Bridges have just not been as good defensively as you would hope that they would be, given how much they paid for them, both in terms of contract and in terms of draft capital. So that's a little disappointing. But at the same time, I feel like they could elevate their defensive game later on in the year and be just fine. It would not shock me in the slightest if they suddenly were playing really, really great defense, and then now you have basically the best wing matchup defensively that you could hope for against Tatum and Jalen. And then you have a stretch big who can match your stretch big. You have, I think Cat can do a good enough job defending the basket in that situation, especially because the Celtics are so perimeter heavy. Again, shooting variance, the Celtics have a poor shooting series. You have a really strong one. You do a good job defending Jason and Jalen one-on-one. It's possible. At the same time, hard to imagine you don't have a bad series from Jalen Brunson. They have so many good defenders to throw at them of all shapes and sizes, to the point where I just think he just wouldn't be able to be as good as he would need to be. And while I think Cat could have moments where he just looks like the Celtics don't have an answer for him, I do think the length and the versatility on the perimeter, especially when he tries to put the ball on the floor, I think it will ultimately work out. Especially dealing with like doubles and shit like that. Like I just feel like when there's high traffic, Cat tends to panic, and the Celtics can do a good job of putting him in those situations to panic. We are going to be picking the Celtics to beat the Knicks, but it wouldn't surprise me if the Knicks made that somewhat of a series. Moving on over to the West, the Thunder and the Grizzlies. Again, I'm really not going to spend any time entertaining this one. It is going to be the OKC Thunder. And then we have our Warriors versus Lakers matchup. I feel like the last time this happened, when we got the Steph versus LeBron in the West, it was a little disappointing. Didn't really generate the type of hype that I anticipated that it would. But with both guys going into the series with at least semi-legitimate title hopes, or at least enough of a reason to delude yourself into believing you have title hopes, well, there's some good motivation for this to be a far better series than the last time we got this, which I think was in 2022, when the Lakers just were not legit at all and the Warriors were. I don't know, maybe I'm misremembering that, but either way, I am torn here because this, to me, this has been the matchup for the second best team in the West. I have gone back and forth ever since the trade deadline, ever since we've seen both of these teams materialize, gone back and forth as to which of these teams I think is the second best in the West after the Thunder. And while the Lakers obviously have the Luka factor, which is the big splashy deal here, I also feel like the Jimmy Butler addition, in terms of just elevating the team from kind of irrelevant to championship contention, I feel like Jimmy elevated them even further than Luka elevated the Lakers, because at least the Lakers had fucking Anthony Davis. The Warriors went from Kyle Anderson and Andrew Wiggins to Jimmy Butler, not from Anthony Davis to Luka. Both are upgrades, but One of them's a more significant upgrade. So the Warriors I actually feel like did improve, but also the Lakers were better than the Warriors before this. Steph's been a lot better lately, and I think he can maintain that. I need Jimmy Butler to step up a lot in order for me to believe in that. Also, how good is Luka Doncic? I just recorded a video on the Lakers' playoff chances. There's a lot of fucking questions with this series, and it's mainly a lot of questions because I think the actual basketball ability is going to be right there. I don't have any doubts that everybody will perform pretty well here. So as long as injuries don't interfere, I do think we're going to get a great competitive series if this happens regardless. I'm thinking I'm going Lakers. It hurts me, but I gotta go Lakers. So probably the least surprising conference finals matchup you could realistically ask for. Here's the thing. I try to do these things. I just used the word a second ago, but realistically, I'm not trying to get too splashy with it, but I do have some interesting thoughts on our conference finals matchup. So let's start in the Eastern Conference between the Boston Celtics and the Cleveland Cavaliers. If it didn't come down to this, I would be entirely shocked. The big problem with Cleveland against the Celtics is the mismatch hunting. Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, but especially Darius because at least Donovan plays bigger than he is. There's a lot of that. Also, Cleveland in general does not have a crazy amount of wing depth. I feel like with DeAndre Hunter and Isaac Okoro available to them now, they can put out lineups that handle Tatum and Brown pretty well. But, you might have to mix things up a little bit. The other thing is like how well is Evan Mobley going to hold up as a three-point shooter? If he holds up well enough, I feel like Cleveland's double big situation could end up eating them alive. On top of that, Boston has been an extremely injury-prone team, and I feel like if you don't have Kristaps Porzingis, that is going to significantly hurt you because you're going to be asking a 38-year-old Al Horford to deal with double bigs who have both been dominating all year. Like Evan Mobley is going to be all NBA, all defense, maybe DPOY, averaging 18, 19 points per game. Like him and Jared Allen both make split-second decisions perfectly out of the pick and roll, out of the anytime they're in a set. Like the Cavaliers move and function so well that if you have a size disadvantage or a mobility disadvantage, they're gonna fucking burn you every time. And I also feel like, the three-point volume with the Celtics was the big thing that they used to beat people. I feel like the Cavs can match that and shoot just as well. Obviously, like I mentioned, there's the Mobley shooting concern, but I don't really have any concern about anybody else on this team as far as shooting the ball is concerned. So I personally am leaning towards the Cleveland Cavaliers because I believe they have more depth. I believe they are more likely to be healthy. I believe that they have enough offensive firepower to match what the Celtics can bring to the table, and I believe the double bigs will eat them alive in the paint. I think while their offense, Cleveland's, is very pertaining to their guards, typically, I think now that you have this factor of Evan Mobley being just this mismatch destroyer, just like you can't put a fucking wing on me type guy, that is going to burn you. Like, because you're probably going to have to put Jason Tatum on him. And while Jason Tatum has done a good job defending players bigger than him, and I think he would do a good job on Evan Mobley, not an ideal matchup because Jason Tatum just is not like a true, like, traditional power forward. He is a modern day power forward, and there is very much a distinction, and Evan Mobley, I think, will make that distinction clear. On top of that, it's just not happened where someone has repeated in a while, and my ideology on this is I'm just not going to call anyone to repeat until it happens. Until it happens, I'm not going to say that it's going to happen. When it does, I will happily eat crow on it, and if the Celtics win the 2025 championship, I will be right here to eat that very crow. But with that said, I am picking the Cavaliers to win the East right now. I think either way it'll be close, and I think it'll almost certainly be determined by health. Oh, you caught me. I did it. I done did it. That's okay. Me, a week ago when I was assembling this, I was being a fucking coward. I have decided to be a real man. I didn't even fucking record that. It was the Celtics. I accidentally picked the Celtics. My light just went out. It's way darker in here. Holy shit. Yes, as I was explaining, sorry, that was a clusterfuck. I actually picked the Celtics last time I put this graphic together, but that was a couple of days ago, and I think that Jacob from 4 days ago was being a pussy. I am picking the Cavaliers. Also, all respect to the Lakers, but I literally just put out a video the day before this about if they can win the West and talked extensively about how they'd match up with the Thunder. So I'm personally just going to say that if the Thunder do not have any kind of substantial injury, I just see no route for the Lakers beating them other than maybe beating them with size, but I don't think they have enough of that, especially if the Chet Hart lineups are a real thing. So we're going to go with OKC, and our finals matchup is the OKC Thunder versus the Cleveland Cavaliers. Where do we start with this one? First of all, double bigs. That's the huge advantage Cleveland has. That's what I think would be the X factor in them beating Boston. Well, if the Thunder are fully healthy, then they can run Chet and Hart. Now, as I said, that is less battle-tested than Mobley and Allen, but it at the very least means that they have the physical bodies to make that matchup a lot more difficult. They might not do the double bigs thing as well as Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen do, but they will do it well enough defensively at least, and survive well enough offensively that probably mitigates it and makes it not nearly the advantage that it was before. So that automatically is a huge death blow for the Cleveland Cavaliers. That sucks. Then you get into the guard matchup, where I originally said, like, the Lakers, in my video talking about the fucking Lakers, that they have a lot of height advantage. The Cavaliers' best perimeter players are both 6'1", and the Thunder just have an endless array of perimeter defenders, from Lou Dort to Cason Wallace to SGA to Alex Caruso to Jalen Williams. They have 5 different options to put on their guards who are all excellent choices. That is fucked. That is so fucked. I also think Lou Dort is like such a great matchup for Donovan Mitchell. I know he has a history of being a good matchup against him. Like, he doesn't have a height disadvantage against him like he would a Luka or LeBron, but he's no height disadvantage, and then he's just a wall of muscle who's gonna just be breathing down your neck the whole game. Like, the defensive matchup is just a nightmare for the Cavaliers. The fact that they don't have the double bigs working in their favor, like, if Chet got hurt, something like that went down, it could end up working in their favor. But I think, barring an injury, I have to go with the OKC Thunder. And for what it's worth, if the Boston Celtics make it out of the East, I would feel the same way. I have to go the OKC Thunder. I just watched the Thunder play the Celtics tonight, actually. It was a couple hours ago. I'm recording this late now, but the Thunder kind of kicked Boston's ass. I'm being relative. The game was close most of the way through, but in terms of it feeling like who was in control of the game, it was the Thunder the whole time, and they were missing Jalen Williams, who is the second most important player to that offense, the second highest volume shot creator in general. And SGA went out there and dominated, and it did not matter. And this whole year, regardless of even when dudes were out injured, the Thunder have managed to dominate. So if they got fully healthy, I don't think anyone, including Boston, can beat them. But if anyone could beat them, it would be Boston, because I do think Boston matches up better than Cleveland does. But Cleveland, man, I want it for him so bad. I just don't think anybody can beat the fucking Thunder. We shall see. A lot of people think Shea's a fraud. Maybe I've been wrong this whole time, and that will be proven true, but I have a feeling it will not be. So yeah, that was my simulation of the 2025 NBA playoffs. I think we are in for a kick-ass series regardless of what happens. The playoffs are going to be sick. I'm so happy, dude. We're not going to get a Lakers-Celtics finals, but that is like the most exciting outcome possible. But I also feel like a Lakers-Cavs finals would be super cool just because of LeBron's history in Cleveland. A Thunder versus Celtics or a Thunder versus Cavs. I really kind of want Thunder versus Cavs just because they've both been such historic teams in the record department. Whatever it ends up being, I think we're going to get some great basketball. And I'm personally here for it and here to enjoy it, rather than to talk about why it sucks all the time. That's how I feel about basketball. I don't know about you. But anyways, that's it. Goodbye.